Okay, let's close our eyes. 1, 2, 3. 3.
Two.
Two.
Ah!
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 5.
5.
Ah!
Ah!
Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. 2.
3.
One. And
Okay.
silence fell.
1, 2, 3.
5.
4.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 5.
5.
2.
Ah!
Ah!
Yay! That's so funny.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Muprov Musings. This is episode number 44. I'm one of your hosts, Hal Munger, and joining me now on the line is your other host, Julian Bernardo.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm feeling, that kind of midday slumber that you get. I was just in Detroit for brunch, but I am highly energized by the subject of our podcast today. I will let her introduce herself further, but let me just welcome to the podcast the founder and director of RTW Kids, Cindy Ong.
Hi, everyone. Really nice to be here. My name is Cindy Ong, and I am the director of a children's youth leadership program. We also emphasize public speaking and creative, innovative thinking. So my background is actually an architect. I studied architecture for many, many years. And then I worked as an architect for many years. And over time, I just decided that designing spaces was amazing, but I really wanted to design the future generation. So I started working with children and starting my own educational entrepreneurship. Yeah.
That's such a cool modality of thinking about it. And we're going to be excited to ask you some comparisons between architecture and improv and child education. But this is the second episode also in our educators series. So last week you just heard from Robert Greene talking about specifically kids in the kind of preschool age range. And now we're moving into improv education from elementary through kind of high school, specifically looking at how improv intersects with people in that age, but then also more broadly about what it means to be an educator and what it means to be an improviser and what it means to be an architect or someone who exists in this world.
So just so that everybody's on the same page, let's hear kind of how RTW Kids started and what the kind of original ideas were there.
Well, yeah, this a lot of people have asked me this question. Why would an architect leave architecture since it's such a, amazing field and go into working with children? And so I think the story kind of starts from a very long time ago, probably when I was a kid. And so I think when I first thought of starting this whole program, I was actually a young mom, and my daughter, Kaylin, who actually was 8 years old at the time. I was feeling she was a bit shy, and I just felt like, wow, there's a big world out there. Especially, I was still working in architecture at the time and working at all these very corporate big offices and designing things like Disney California or designing like UCLA buildings and designing a lot of very big projects where there would be like 100 architects and engineers in the room. I just felt like, how is my little girl going to be able to stand up and speak for herself? So I kind of felt like I really wanted my two kids to survive in this world. So that's how I first thought about starting a public speaking program, which began with children's theater at the beginning. And then eventually it started turning into improv. But going back to where this all started, it stems back to when I was like maybe in first grade. I remember my first day starting class in America, and I didn't speak a word of English. I was 5, 6, and I walked into the room and I felt like an alien because I was in Canada and I went to a school that was pretty much all Caucasian. Some of them were French, some of them were Canadian, and I was the only Asian in the entire school other than my brother. And so I felt really, different. And I think the reactions that I got were very challenging, even as a young child. And I think I felt very lost all the way up till fourth grade when my favorite teacher actually really made me feel very special. And she really reached out to me and gave me lots of opportunities to do what I was good at the time, which was art, and I could draw. So she would make me like draw the front page of the yearbook, and she would give me all these special one-on-one talks with me and make sure I was doing okay inside. And when we were going to move to the US, she actually asked me, how did I feel about that? And as a 9-year-old, I still remember it to this day when someone actually asked me how I felt about the move and if I was okay with it. So I think having this wonderful relationship with my teacher, it really made me feel like, teachers are not just for academics, they're really someone who can change your life. And I just feel like if I can reach out to one child at a time through improv or through all the stuff that we do in our program, I could actually one day at a time, one child at a time, change the world. That's what I do. Yeah.
That's really awesome to hear. And it totally strikes true that it's one of those things where you're a kid and you just have such little experience in this world that any one person kind of diverting from the existing flow it can make a big impact. Do you think that like it seems like there's a creativity thing that's kind of nestled into this that was a helpful thing for you and is certainly like integral to RTW Kids. Like, what role do you think, like in terms of starting RTW Kids and just mission wise, like creativity plays in terms of kind of helping kids out at this age?
Yeah, definitely because of my design background, I went to USC architecture, and I think it didn't really just teach me how to design buildings or 3D spaces. It taught me that design has a lot to do with solving problems and addressing needs, and also understanding conformity, like understanding how does your design product fit in with the world that is around it. And I think a lot of that stayed with me, all these concepts. And as I'm teaching, I feel like I'm not just teaching kids how to be creative or how to do art. I'm actually teaching them how to think on their own and how to understand that there are many, many options, many different decisions that you can make, and none of them are wrong. And I think creativity is not just about empowering your imagination. It's about finding a solution to something that might need attention, or finding a new way of doing things that no one has ever thought of. And so that's why I feel like I wanted to teach something called creative leadership. And it's about, being creative and not just a leader, but finding a new way of thinking and having the communication ability to help other people understand your vision. And that's what we do here. We're teaching kids how to feel empowered, how to build confidence and assertiveness so that they can take their ideas and make them come alive. I think everyone's creative. So every child that has walked into my program in the last 15 years, and we've worked with like thousands of kids by now, because we have like 100 kids a week. Every child that walks into this program has a chance to explore their imagination, and find themselves creative, because I think it's hidden in all of us.
Yeah.
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 And
Uh,
just for brass tacks, so that we like understand, like for an average like child who's going to be involved with RTW Kids, like what is one example, like kind of tenure that they can have with the program, like in terms of
Yeah, that's
day
a
to
really good
day, how long
question.
lasting?
We actually help them grow up. So a lot of kids come in our program, they grow up, stay here for 10 years. So they come here at maybe age 8. That's like my average entrance age.
Mm-hmm.
And they stay till they graduate senior in high school. So an example of what they would do, good question. So I've had kids that actually started in kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
and they are like in ninth grade now.
Wow.
And what did they do in kindergarten? They came in, and we had them first start by doing improv. And they would learn teamwork. They would learn how to focus. They would learn how to, be out of the box, how to think and come up with ideas on the spot, and how to make decisions and be confident about your idea. And so we work on that a lot first.
Yeah.
And after I feel like, okay, they can work in a group now, and they can focus and concentrate, then we start having them do this really cool competition that's very creative and takes a lot of teamwork and time management. And it's called Destination Imagination.
Mm.
So they would compete regionally, or if they place, then they would go and get invited to state. And we've even had our teams actually every year go to world competitions, in this
Wow.
really cool kind of team creative collaboration. And so these creative teams, there's like maybe 7 maximum, of kids that are maybe 1 or 2 years apart, and they work together and they come up with solutions to this whole score sheet that is given to them. So it depends on the challenge. So we do different challenges. We could do like improv challenge, which we love, and that's what we started doing first. And we could also do challenges that are more like theater oriented, that includes something that is technical, like STEM and arts, and they build something, and then they design and build and direct and act out their whole story that's about 8 minutes long.
Mm.
So we do stuff like that. We also love to do community service, where they can also build something and they can think of a idea that can benefit the community. So there's all kinds of really incredible stuff we've done in the last 12 years of all these competition teams. And yeah, so our kids would go and explore different avenues in these competitions. The improv competition is very unique.
Yeah.
It's usually 5 minutes long of performance time,
Mm-hmm.
and they have 2 minutes to meet and discuss with their team of under 7 people, an idea on the spot that they're given. So like they'll get all these unknowns, and they have to do research ahead of time, and they practice for months on how to be prepared for that 5 minutes of hitting everything on the score sheet and presenting something that is clear and effective and makes sense. So they're basically doing a lot of problem solving, connecting unconnected pieces that are thrown at them. So I'll give you an example. So one competition we had, like recently, our competition was, they had to create a scene that had to be like happy in the first scene, and they'll get something like a surfer that they have to act out. And then in the second scene, the surfer has to do something that's given to him on the spot. Like the surfer has to deliver mail to the top of the mountain. So they have to put together a scene in which the surfer is very surfer-like, and they have to stay in character, and they have to find a reason why the surfer is delivering something to the top of the mountain. And they have to figure out why the surfer is so happy all the time. And then in act 2, they have to figure out, they might like switch it. They might say that the surfer is no longer happy. So now we have to figure out why it's so sad. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And after you do all these competitions, we actually have our kids recently, our more advanced teams who have already won like top 10 at all these world finals. They also work on something that we've been doing with the Stanford improvisers. And last summer, about like a couple of Stanford improvisers came and helped teach our classes and helped us work together and design a curriculum that even sixth graders up to 12th graders can do, that is a long form narrative. Wow. So they would actually put together a story in an hour. And we recently just finished Super Scene with our 7th graders all the way up till 12th graders. And they had so much fun. And they absolutely are crazy about The Sims, and so are we. So we're just exploring all kinds of new things to do to help our kids be brave and keep learning.
Yeah.
I just had a Zoom call with a STEM mentor, and we actually have STEM college students come in and art college students come in, and we kind of create a team of mentors that help our kids learn how to build something for these competitions. So we have all kinds of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super heartened to hear there's this melding going on between the creativity and also the STEM direction. As somebody who finds myself in these two worlds very often, it's great to see people who are somehow balancing the two. Feel free to cut in here, Hal. But I did have a question about the competition aspect of all of this. So, improv is one of these things where people feel super vulnerable being on stage performing in front of people, and adding competition can certainly be both motivating but also scary. How do you balance letting kids be motivated by the competition without crumbling or taking too much of the anxiety away from it?
Yeah, that's such a good question, Julian. I wish we could have more conversations because you really hit it on the spot. Because I feel like after all these years of teaching, I do think that that is a very big struggle for me because I love my kids. I love every single one of them that come in. I treat them like almost my own kids that I am, having this honor to influence and to learn from them too. And I think competition is very uncomfortable, especially for improv, because it is vulnerable, even if you're not competing. Like just being on stage, just having to react right away to what your partner is saying and just believing in what you're doing, is the right thing is already a very vulnerable experience. And then you have 5 minutes to think about, oh my gosh, I have to, hit all these things on the score sheet. And I have to make sure that, whatever I say is important enough so I can say it. It's very, very challenging. And I do think that a lot of times we talk about how learning to win and learning how to lose is very important. And I think that is a lesson in life that, all adults have to deal with. Like the more advanced, the more higher up you go, the more competitive it gets. And the more you have to learn to be resilient. So I feel like our kids compete and they do learn that, life is about learning. It's about, finding yourself in this, world of competition and learning how to accept that sometimes you fail, but it's those failures that make you learn the most, because that's when you realize, how could I do better? What did I not do? Or maybe it's just very subjective, how the decision was made. Sometimes there's no absolute right or wrong or who did better or who didn't. It's It's just a healthy competition. So we really have a lot of time to reflect. So in fact, after the competition, we always meet and we always have our kids talk about it. We always make sure, they express, how they're doing inside. Because I think the most important part is that they personally grow inside and be strong and have a positive mindset. That's our goal. It's not about winning. And we always talk about that.
Yeah.
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 That's great.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, totally.
I think you did. Yeah. One thing that I feel like is very striking from all of this is that in many settings, I feel like the life skills are less of the educational focus, and or they're also sometimes harder to translate. So if you're a math teacher, you totally can teach big life lessons to your students based on how you assign things or how you react. But improv has a particular ability to teach both like social skills and like confidence and these kind of more abstract concepts that have more to do with like your actual life as you live it, which seems like a kind of exciting thing. I would love to hear more of your thoughts on this kind of thing and why those skills are like important to nourish and educate, or why improv is the vehicle that you chose to teach this rather than like any other lesson.
Yeah, I feel like improv is almost like you're the actor and director all in one, and it's very empowering. And I feel like for a child and even for adults, it's like really incredible how you have this moment on stage where you feel totally in control and you have a chance to make a difference, and you get to move the story in a certain direction, or you get to help your friend on stage come alive and become this character that they are willing to accept. And I think improv has a lot to do with empathy. It really helps you think about who's the other person on stage, try to really understand them and try to help them. And I feel like beyond just confidence and learning to be assertive and learning to speak clearly on stage, there's so much we can teach young people about working together and about being a supportive leader and someone who actually listens to other people's ideas, and not just someone who says, I think this is the way and everyone should follow me. And I feel like I'm teaching people how to become beautiful human beings and not just leaders, right? So I think improv is amazing. The more I get into it, especially now that I'm learning so much about narrative long form improv with the Sims, I learned that it's so empowering and it's incredible to see these kids' eyes light up, because when they're doing stories, they feel like someone is actually listening to their ideas, and their imagination is so powerful at that age of elementary school, that they realize I get to do what I want here. And everyone on stage is going to support me, because in improv, it's always a yes. And so it's an incredible experience of feeling that you're always included, that everything you say is important, and that you're always going to be, part of this team that is going to travel together on this imaginative journey. I think, yeah, I think I really think that a lot of people have a hard time now in schools socially and emotionally, for all ages. I work with high schoolers, all the way till they graduate. And I feel like, of course, the pandemic has changed a lot of kids in, their mindset about friendship, about, socializing, and about, being out there, being brave. And I feel like improv is so interactive and supportive and gentle that it really helps a lot of introverted kids or maybe even antisocial kids and super shy people realize that I can make an impact. So it's, I really should speak up and I should be impactful and, make a difference. So yeah, I really think there's so much about improv that I love. I could talk to you for hours about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's exactly what we're going for. With that, like, so I see the clear. To me, the pitch has already been the pitch has already been completely made. But when you were just starting out the program, I was wondering how at the very beginning it was received, whether there were a lot of other parents that you know who were having the same issues and wanting the same things for their kids, or whether it's a pitch that's been building over time, and also just how it interacts with like the community around you and builds up that community.
So it definitely was not an easy journey. It's very challenging. It has been an endless journey of trying to find, what is the perfect thing to do for these kids at this time. Because what I'm doing is I'm not just offering classes. I feel like I'm supporting people's lives. So what I do is I really pay attention to each and every child that comes into my program. So it is really a lot of work and it's very personalized. So when I first started, I feel like, my mission kind of changed over time. So when I first started, I was just focused on public speaking and helping kids be confident on stage. But I think over time, I really felt that there's a lot more that I can do to help the future generation. I think, especially since there's so much going on with young people these days with mental health and with the world, it's very challenging. So to answer your question, it was very difficult. There were a lot of people that didn't understand what I was doing. Because like I'm telling you right now, there is so much I have in my head that I want to give back, that it's really hard to understand all of it. But I think my main purpose is just to help young people find their path and find their way. And the first thing you need to do is instill confidence in them. And doing that is not easy because everyone learns in a different way and everyone feels empowered in a different way. So I think over time, a lot of parents have seen results. And I think that's the biggest thing that helps you become more credible. Trust is a big thing. People have to feel that they, trust you before they will hand you their child and have you help them, right? So the results, have been, really positive. I've been very lucky. We've won so many competitions. That was one big measurable result. And not just competition, all our kids have grown up in our program have changed into amazing young people. Like I've had kids that come in that wanted to be a class clown, and they end up being super focused and super positive energy by the time they're in high school. I've had kids that come in that are so shy that they shake when they talk. And over time, we've given them so much love and support and opportunities that, now they're actually very, very confident, very decisive, and social. So people can change. And when parents see results on their own, if they're paying attention, you really have to pay attention because it's not tangible what we do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you might not get, how should I say, parents might not understand that it's happening, or they might think it's something else that has affected their child to be so positive. And I'm okay with that. I think my purpose is that I have helped these people and I'm really, positive about it. And I think this stems back to improv. It's a lot about, everything you do actually really matters. And whatever you do for someone, let's say you just, did something really positive for someone. Let's say you made them feel good, and that person is going to go and pass on that positivity to someone else, and it's just going to continue, sending positive vibes all over the world. And someday that positivity will come back to you. And I truly believe that. And I feel improv is like that. And you probably understand that, right? When you are improvising on stage, if you're helping someone next to you, it's going to just pass on to the entire story. Yeah. And like I said, improv is like a story of real life.
Yeah. I definitely also could see that when I got to teach them for a week last summer, and it was such a fun group to work with and teach, and they were just so able to process things and immediately incorporate feedback, and just like it was just very clear that it was a group that had that it was not some randomly selected group of kids, or even if it was randomly selected 10 years ago now, that that there just so much work had gone in, and it made it such a vibrant and fun. And the festival, if anyone is in the area this summer, gets to see the shows. The shows were fantastic. That they put on a really wonderful show. So that's amazing.
How you were amazing. You were here, and the kids were just so inspired. And you were here for us at the show too. And the show was 5 hours last summer, and this summer we're planning a festival that is going to be even more awesome. And we are really excited that we're going to be expanding the improv community, and kind of bringing together improv teams from local areas, from colleges, from improv teams that are independent, from our high schoolers, even to our advanced middle schoolers. They're all going to be part of the show, and they each are going to perform for an hour each. And it's going to be a really cool coming together of talents and different personalities and different styles of improv. And hopefully the improvisers can get to know each other too. So I'm really excited. It's going to happen the weekend of August 24th, 25th. So we're hoping to have all those people that love improv to come and be part of this journey that we're going to start together. And hopefully there'll be many more. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So can groups, if there was a college group that heard this right now, is it still too late to sign up to join, or?
No, actually, we'd love to hear from them. I think our purpose is to bring all these people that have passion for improv together. And the more people we hear from, the more we will grow this community of improvisers even bigger. I think we absolutely think it has made differences in our children's lives and all my children, my hundreds of children. And I think we really want to keep it going and spread the love. Yeah.
Do you? Oh,
yeah. Wait, can I ask one, Julia?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was curious also, just as an architect, creative person, artist, like, has personally it affected your other work to be the work that you do in the realm of improv or education? Has that transferred over to your design work or to any other art that you like to do on your own?
Oh, so really good question. I think it's really interesting. Like when I was in architecture, I was just obsessed with architecture. And to me, it was my new religion. And I loved it because it was so theoretical and so much philosophy behind the building of the design of a building. And it wasn't just functional. It had meaning and truth behind it. And one of my most favorite architects is my husband loves it too. It's Louis Kahn. And how is
I made a face. Have you seen the movie My Architect?
Is it about the Louis Kahn movie or?
It's one of my mom's favorite movies. It's a really
Oh,
cool. Sorry, he's like the only architect I know, but his he had like I think slightly illegitimate son who didn't know who his father was for a long time, and his
no,
son made a documentary uh
about
about
him.
yeah, his son hadn't seen a lot of his buildings, so he started one by one going to all the buildings, and you see him do it
Oh,
in the documentary, and it starts out where you're looking at these kind of like somewhat normal looking. I won't spoil, but the last couple buildings in the documentary are like the craziest things that you've ever
oh,
seen, and it's a
well,
really beautiful, cool movie about like father son relationship, but also about just architecture and beautiful.
well, Hal, I traveled to the East Coast and I went to see his Exeter library,
Hmm.
and I was just amazed by what I witnessed with the play of light and shape and form and spatial, awareness. And it's the stuff he would write in his books. I would just, but it's I just get really excited. It's like reading poetry expressed in three-dimensional space, and it had to do with lighting and how lighting naturally comes into the building and it makes the building come alive. And he had an amazing imagination about how space making is so important. And I think you can never really understand it until you walk in to the building and experience this immersive experience of light and space and volume. And I think it's, to answer your earlier question, I really do believe what Louis Kahn says is that every building has its own soul. And I think for me right now, my second wind career of helping to design the future generation, I feel like every child has its own soul. And to me, this is my creative project. Is to try to figure out how to help every soul come alive. And I think every child has its own mind, its own strengths and weaknesses, its own passion, but they need your help to discover that. They need opportunities and a lot of encouragement and someone to believe in them to make that art project come alive. And to me, like I said, art is not about something visual. To me, it's making somebody, really learn to love themselves and really just, building the confidence to, do great things in this world.
Wow, that's so exciting. That's cool. That's a very neat perspective on what art making is. I guess then also the flip in inverting that question, then it's very hard to structurally design an improv organization for any age. And particularly you were designing one that didn't necessarily have that many other model organizations in the same way that someone starting an improv theater might be able to look to other. So as an architect and a designer and a builder, how did you go about the massive logistical task of creating and architecting an organization that would allow people to travel through it and feel positively about each other and like all of these different things?
Well, I don't know. I guess it just came natural. My background working in architecture, I had to really understand how to bring a lot of different disciplines together in one room and work together. So I think I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship and in doing something that is innovative. So I feel like as what I do is I just kind of feel like I just take my passion and I just follow my passion. And as, obstacles come my way, kind of like sailing a boat, you just kind of tackle them and do the best you can to deal with it or to sail a different direction, right? And it hasn't been easy. There has been people that have, really tried to, make the situation uncomfortable, or there might be people who feel very competitive with you. But I think the logistics is not really the hard part. I think the hard part is just staying positive and believing in yourself and riding through all these negative energy that might come your way. I think that's my best advice for, how I've survived through all these years on my own and still finding, new avenues to explore. I think doing something on your own is never easy. It's a 24/7 job. You never rest, even in your sleep, you're thinking about it because there's so many little problems to solve. And having so many students is a very big task. It's almost like working with 100 architects. And these are double too, because it's children and their parents. And everyone has different needs and opinions. So I think, the logistics behind it is be super organized and definitely always be thinking ahead of what's next and definitely get a lot of help. We actually have over the years gotten a lot of support. For me, I've been super lucky. My family, my husband is super supportive, always there to just give me an answer when I can't decide something, or just being super understanding of how I love all my children. How he has to deal with 100 children in my house. And my kids, my son Ryan just graduated from Berkeley, and he has been part of the making of this program since the 6th grade. So in 6th grade, he was like my partner in crime. And he helped me with a lot of the creative ideas, the vision of the theater design and designing, really cool stage, innovative ideas. We did Alice in Wonderland. He, made a Jabberwocky come alive through a video screen, and it was really unusual. He even recently helped me develop the curriculum that would fit our kids' age groups and their different levels of experience to help them understand how to, do the Stanford type of narrative improv. And that's really a big challenge because they're not college students. They're not, at that level of maturity. Improv takes a lot of maturity to be able to do long form, especially. And Ryan has been incredible helping me, envision this festival this summer. And Kaylin has also, that's my other daughter that goes to Stanford. She has been incredible trying to help me understand, all the amazing things she's been doing with the Sims. And Kaylin actually grew up as my little star. She was in 2nd grade and she was basically in the spotlight all the time because she was my daughter who was acting in all these competitions. And she was the one that was supporting backstage, helping all the kids be prepared for the theater show, even as young as 3rd grade. She was like my stage manager in 3rd grade. So my kids and my family have really helped me along the way. I guess you could say I'm like a mad artist. And it really takes a lot of support from, a lot of people. And the community has been amazing, very understanding and supporting me. And recently, like maybe the last 2-3 years, we've had about 10 coaches every year, and these are like college students or young professionals who actually graduated from our program, and they are our alumni. And they come back and they help me coach because they totally understand what we are about. And I just love the mentorship that is existing in our program. And a lot of these ideas actually came from my son Ryan, who proposed that I needed help because it was just growing bigger and bigger. And I feel like it takes a community, definitely to raise a child, and it takes a community to raise, a mission statement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I, I'm interested in so as an improviser, there's a sense in which when you're in this room with other improvisers, there's this great sense of yes and that is flowing throughout, and it's a great community. And it seems like you're fostering a community at RTW that similarly empowers kids in that space. But how do you think about the offboarding and the after? Because they're continuing this analogy, right? There are times where I'm with people who are not improvisers, and they're giving the exact opposite of what an improviser would give. And it's hard to deal with that, especially if you have spent a lot of time in this kind of space. And so, how do you think about preparing kids for facing situations that don't, and in particular, maybe spaces that don't have the same kind of norms that you've established in RTW?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we have such a big community that our kids are actually, the goal is to help them work with every different personality. And they actually work with different people all the time. So we don't keep them in the same group every year. They don't grow up on the same team, all along. They actually keep switching. So what we do is they actually make new friendships along the next few years. And by the time they are 18, they know pretty much everyone in our community, which is a pretty big group. And they know all age groups. They what they do is they come back and coach, and they can start coaching as young as ninth grade. And earlier years, I had fifth graders coach. And it's really amazing because they go back and they work with the new kids. And that's when, like what you're saying, Julian, is when it gets challenging.
Yeah.
When you're suddenly going, oh my gosh, this person doesn't get it. He's not saying yes. or he's, he makes me uncomfortable. But I think life is about these unexpected interactions with people. And that's exactly what improv is about. It's not about just, having a great time working with your friends forever. It's about improvising with other groups and other people and challenging yourself to have these unexpected moments, and you have to figure out how to get out of it or how to help the situation. And in my professional career as an architect and as an educator too, I've had many moments where I've been put in these very uncomfortable conversations, and I have to figure out, what do I say next? What is the other person thinking? Oh, and all this is what you're doing in improv. You're always thinking, what can I do to make to make progress, to make this a positive interaction? So yeah, I think I have heard, some of my high schoolers say, "Oh, I love this community, RTW, because it's a safe space for me. Like I come and I feel like I can be silly, can be childish, I can be myself, I can be lazy. I don't have to meet the expectations of my peers in high school." And I hear that. But I think it's great to have a place where you can feel safe, but at the same time, you should take these skills with you, to where, you have to deal with in the workplace or in your school, and try to challenge yourself to do something unexpected, go and interact with people you never talked to. Like recently, Julian, I had a 17-year-old, I think she's 17, she's about to be a senior, and she is like one of my prized RTW kids. She was with me since second grade, and I love her. And she recently has been asking my son Ryan and I to support her, kind of give her some advice on asking for letters of rec from teachers for college. And I recently, we brainstormed together, the three of us, and then we came up with an idea like, oh, you really should go and ask your teacher, the one that you like, that maybe no one else, likes.
Mm.
And we actually said, it's okay. You don't have to choose the teacher that has 100 requests because they're not even going to pay attention,
Mm.
or they might be too tired by the time they get to your letter. So we asked her, go and talk to this teacher that you had good memories of. And even though no one else thinks she's cool, maybe you'll find a connection with her. And she was so nice to actually take our idea, and she went to approach her and came back super happy, told me that they talked for a long time and they found a connection. And the teacher was so happy that someone actually loved her style, even though she wasn't the most popular teacher in that school. And sometimes when someone feels, you give them a second chance, they even love you even more, right? So I think these are the lessons that we learn in improv, to not be afraid and to take your ability to, be able to, steer conversations to a positive way and to find connections. And that's exactly what she did. And she got her letter of rec.
It's funny. That seems to
Yeah.
almost come full circle back to the first teacher you had in fourth grade. I don't know. Maybe that teacher was an extremely popular teacher throughout the school, but just the power of one individual teacher to make an individual connection for a kid and be the right person at the right time for that kid and kind of make that connection and impact.
Oh,
So
see how you're always thinking. You're like, this is the improv moment, how you just connected.
the narrative. So it's fun.
Right?
And
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Just it's interesting to think about this whole improv as a life analogy thing, in the sense that uh, at a certain point when you're doing improv, and I'm sure some of the RTW kids face this, like improv no longer is exactly this like kind of scary, fearful thing, right? Like eventually you do it enough that like you're not on stage and like scared of what you're going to say next. And obviously it comes back up again from time to time. But what you said stuck with me in the sense that the skills that you use to build the comfort with being on stage and not having that like intense fear or anything like that should be, those are the same skills as like these totally non-improv scenarios. And it's I think it's hard for me, and I don't know how you feel, Hal, as somebody who does a lot of improv, to think about this improv life metaphor, because it is so secondhand now, right?
Mhm.
That it doesn't feel like it gets at some of these larger things like it did at the beginning. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's no question there. I just had that realization as you were talking, and yeah, I think it's interesting.
well, at least for myself, I definitely can say that a lot of big social and life skills at this point, a lot of them I learned before improv and apply them to improv. But the number of skills that I actually learned through improv and then now apply to my real life, like a lot of my emotional awareness in real life actually came from learning that through improv and practicing recognizing different emotions of different people's faces and playing different emotions. Uh, yeah, a lot of the teamwork and like there are just a lot of skills that I feel like I specifically practice in improv. And then it actually was a secondary skill of being like, wait, I can do this perfectly on stage. Now I'm having trouble doing this in the conversation with my friend. And that actually is the harder transition step for me. But yeah, that's always what's one of the things that has always felt really cool about this program to me, is that it feels like there aren't a lot of options for, as a parent, for you to be like, I'm going to go send my kid to like personality school. I know that sounds like the wrong thing. Like, you're not trying to make a kid one way or another, but
Yeah.
to teach a kid, how do you make friends? To teach a kid, how do you deal with your emotions and understand how to control them or how to follow them, or like, how do you speak? Like, all of these kind of skills that are more important maybe than knowing a bunch of dates or facts. I feel like they don't get attention because there currently was not a very good way to teach them, or not a very like because like what Cindy was saying, it's harder to evaluate like, oh, I learned like it's easier to evaluate whether or not someone can multiply it than whether or not they can like, you know, make their friend feel better when they're upset or whatever. But it felt
Oh,
very
well,
powerful to me to see
yeah.
that Cindy talking about the effects that it has on the kids and the ways in which parents who are like, I don't know how to help my kid gain these skills, were able to watch them gain the skills through this program.
Yeah, well, I've been very fortunate to have parents that actually really pay attention. I mean, I have met the most wonderful parents over the years, and they know their child so well, and they know their child's not perfect, and no one's perfect. And so they would come and they would tell me their struggle as a mom or a dad, or they would tell me, you know, what they would like their child to work on. And they know it's not easy. But what's amazing is they're actually paying attention, and they would come back and give me feedback, which I love to hear. And they would say, oh, so and so is really, you know, more positive now. I don't hear her, you know, saying like, you know, violent jokes, or I don't hear, you know, sometimes some kids are too exposed to the media, and, you know, they have very, you know, negative energy to get attention. And so we actually work on being more positive. And sometimes we'll have like parents say, oh my gosh, you know, my child is willing to talk to the teacher now. She's not going to sit back and just be a follower. And I think if you really pay attention, you'll notice that, you know, the little things that your child learns, you know, at this time, they in these early years of elementary school, it's really crucial to changing their way, their path, and, you know, making them become a more positive person. And you know, for me, I think life skills is more about helping them be positive and become a happy person. Like I always tell my parents, you know, it's more important to be happy and to be happy with yourself and your situation than to just always be just searching for success. And I like, you know, we do these competitions so much that it really, you know, puts me on that edge where I have to think about, am I creating a winning team, or am I creating a team where everyone is happy and growing? So you do it so much, you realize that, you know, life is not just about success, you know, because what's the use if it's a successful team, but there's someone in there that's really unhappy? So I think these social skills that we're teaching them and these positive mindsets that improv, you know, helps them learn, it really changes how these kids are thinking. And I think a lot of improvisers I meet, I feel like they are already have an advantage in life because you have an emotional intelligence about you, and you're very aware of yourself, and you're very aware of how other people feel, and having that ability helps you communicate. And that is so important, you know, to get it out of your system so that other people can understand you and you can understand yourself. So I think it's even more than just leadership skills or, you know, confidence. It's just a positive mindset that improv, you know, gives you. So
Yeah.
um,
If someone wanted to enroll their child in RTW Kids, where would that person have to be in the world, or how would they go about doing it? Just
well, I am very open to help, you know, anyone at any age. So I actually have kids coming in as young as second grade, and I even have high schoolers that the parents suddenly realize that they could use some help. And I have high schoolers that would just, you know, join. And so they would just contact me on text, or they can, you know, contact me on, you know, my website. So yeah. So did you want me to share
yeah, if
contact
you would
information?
like to. I
Oh,
don't know. We don't
okay.
have that many listeners on the podcast, but anyone who's
Sure.
listening, if they
Yeah.
happen to be local,
Yeah. So my website is rtwkids.org. So they can look up, you know, our history and all the things we've been doing and all our pictures of all our kids. And I actually have a Facebook site called RTW Kids, so they can message me there. My email is rtwcindy cindy@gmail.com. So just RTW cindy@gmail.com. And I'm, we're in Arcadia. So usually most of the kids are from local cities. Yeah, and happy to help.
That's great. This is so far down the line, but I'm hearing this and I'm like, man, I hope that my kid is able to do something like this. I feel like it's a nice blend. This might sound a little bit reductive, but there's certain skills that I think kids get from stuff like art and creative endeavors that teaches them expression and whatnot. And there's certain skills that kids get from like sports with camaraderie and confidence and whatnot. And it seemed like a wonderful blend of two of these common avenues for kids to go down. And I think it's also more than the sum of its parts. We are getting pretty low on time. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask, Cal?
I think we should just hit the final question if that's where we're.
Yeah. So we always want our guests to have the opportunity to plug anything that they would like to plug. You just plugged RTW, but is there anything else that you would like to plug, be it a specific thing, a message, a TV show, a dish?
Well, I think my life lesson was basically to really follow your passion, really believe in what you do, and to not feel like you're stuck, and to always embrace curiosity and just keep sailing, and one day you'll find your way. And this is also for parents out there who are feeling it's really rough right now, and I think it's not easy to raise a child, especially with all the things that have happened. And I think it's really important to just believe in yourself, and to give yourself a break and forgive yourself, because it's not easy. So just keep sailing.
Yeah.
Just keep
It's
sailing.
amazing.
Maybe that will be the episode title. We're always looking for the episode title. So that may be it. And I'm also gonna put into the pitch pot of that My Architect movie about Louis Kahn is a fantastic movie that everyone should watch as well.
Yes. Louis Kahn. Awesome.
We appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast. It's wonderful to get these different perspectives, and Hal and I are the biggest suckers for just believing that improv it can play a pivotal role in life skills. And so you're preaching to the choir, but it's very interesting to hear the specifics, especially coming at it from an early age.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love all the questions you asked me. It really helped me think about why am I doing all this? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I feel like I've learned a lot in this conversation as well. I've had a great time, but that time has come to an end now. So without further ado, this has been Muprov
Musings.
So my sign off is last night I had a chance to sit in a cyber truck for the first time.
Oh.
And it was so surreal, and it was actually wrapped in complete satin black and beautiful. Okay. And I got to sit inside and take a ride, and I felt like I was Batman.
What was the inside like?
It's just beautiful. It's so clean. It's minimal, very minimalist.
Right.
There's only like one strip of light that I noticed because it was dark. It was at night, and the light apparently can change colors. And it was kind of like a violet, kind of pinkish light, and then everything was black. And it was very, very clean, right? It just seems like you have this huge laptop, screen to do everything you need. And there's another screen in the back seat, and then the windows are just overwhelmingly big and clean, and not clean in design sense. Like, it's just very minimalist, and everything's very geometric. And the space inside is just unusually feeling very spacious, and you just feel like you're in like a space car. But I think, it's just really interesting to have these new ideas for designing cars. And I actually love the fact that they wrapped it, because it was less, the material didn't seem as stark. It was just really black and beautiful. And I just kept making fun of my friend, and I said, "This is the Batmobile."
And so
I would totally feel like I was riding the Batmobile if I was in a black wrapped Cybertruck. Does the center console, is it like a normal Tesla where it has like the kind of tablet looking thing with the big screen and the typical stuff?
I feel like it's like a Tesla, but I feel like it seemed a little higher in height. And the chairs, the leathers seemed a little cleaner, and the chairs were very comfortable. They were a lot stiffer. I don't know about the drive. I didn't drive it, but I think spatially it felt much bigger and more like angular, like all the shapes. Also, the window in front of you is huge. And then there's this gigantic windshield wiper on the outside that stretches along the entire left length of the window. It's just really
That's
different.
the Batmobile.
Different, yes.
Yeah.
I was looking for the buttons to press so I can shoot up in the sky.
Yeah. Don't hit the eject button.
Now we know if we're ever in trouble, we know who to call.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you were gonna fight crime, or had a justice mission, what do you think you would do with your one night out with the Batmobile?
Wow, that's a tough one. Wow.
I think the angularity of it just scares people. I think that anybody who is going to go out there and do evil would see that and know that there is some sharp angles that may be coming toward them for they to do so.
Just patrol. You just have to. They see Cindy at the wheel and they're like, okay, I'm gonna try anything.
The car actually is really, it gets a lot of attention. Like I felt like the shape of it is so odd and unusual. You either get really positive vibes, or you get people staring at you like you're crazy. So in terms of crime fighting, I definitely think it's very intimidating just from the front. All you see is just this strip of light. It doesn't even look like a car. It looks like an alien. So I'm pretty sure that will scare anybody away.
Yeah, I agree.
When the times they seem so crazy, can't you see me now? Can't you see me now? See me now. Can't you see me now? Can't you everything is changing. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now?